There we are. We're live. We'll let people hop on here. Welcome. If you're joining us right away and you were just waiting with anticipation for Roy and me to pop on your screen. So hope you guys are having a good day. We'll wait here for a couple minutes as people hop on. So put some music on here. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us here. We'll introduce ourselves and get going. Really appreciate you watching. And if you're watching after the fact and it's not live, thanks for taking a minute to join us. I'm James Prush. I'm the Director of Marketing and Development here at Christian Heritage. And I've been around here for just about 15 to 16 months. And so still new. And so some of you don't know me, that's why. So Roy, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. So I'm Roy Baldwin, and I am the CEO. I've been here, finished up 2 years. I'm now in my third year now here at Christian Heritage.
And we're here today to talk about our new rebranding. You can kind of see our new logo there in the corner, our beautiful orange. And we sent out an email. We put stuff on social media in the last week or so to talk about our new look and why we have a new look. And so we wanted to take really just 5 to 10 minutes today to share our heart about our new vision and why we've rebranded. And so really just to kick it off, Roy, I just want to ask you, what's been the history with moving toward a new vision, and why is the time right now, the time for rebranding?
Yeah, that's great. Christian Heritage, we have over 40 years of an incredible legacy that's been given to us, by Greg and Lisa Nicholas. And obviously there's been a lot of different names and faces and people who've represented, the heart to care for vulnerable children. And so we've been given this incredible legacy. Primarily that's been through foster care. But anyone close to the ministry knows that it's taken a lots of different, evolutions from being group homes at some point to family finding. And so we've embodied that in a lot of different ways. But prior to 2020, when I got here, the board, was really wrestling with, its own vision statement. Who are we, as an organization? How do we know that we're hitting the right targets? And so the board at that time, shifted, its vision, so to speak, as an organization. And really at the heart of, the vision for Christian Heritage was to see, the children that we serve, the families we support, but primarily the children that we serve, to see them flourish in their lives. So flourishing, and this understanding, especially in Christian circles, this understanding of biblical flourishing, what does that look like?
Yeah.
And so when that decision was made in early 2020, we then, for me as a CEO, then I have to write what's called interpretations of, so how are we going to see children flourish as an organization? And so, probably another 6 months after that, we came up with definitions of flourishing, which is our new vision statement, our new mission statement, our new purpose statement was an embodiment of what the board was now asking of us as an organization about how do we care for children really well. And so this has began this process of flourishing and looking at our programs and looking at how we serve children, our children flourishing because of the work, we do as an organization, which is, represented through foster families. It's represented through host homes. It's represented by the work that we do in prisons and serving the families of those families impacted by incarceration. And so, our people flourishing because of the work we're doing, which again is not just what happens here in our office. It's what happens in our communities and in our churches as well, and the incredible partners that we have. So that's really what started all of this.
And kind of to go off of that with our partners, right? Our mission statement is such an integral part of what we do. When people ask, like, what is it you do? Right. We don't say we make children flourish. That's our vision. So our partners are so key for our mission. And I'll put our mission up here. Our mission is to change the future of child welfare by mobilizing a gospel-centered community to support vulnerable children and families. And so talk Roy about like how that is so important for us to not be the ones who are at the center, but for how God's people should be at the center.
Yeah, I mean, and primarily, again, when people see these new articulations, by the way, I feel like we've always been doing this for the last 40 years already. I mean, it looks a little different, but it really is the same heartbeat. We are a faith-based, unapologetically, we're a faith-based child placing agency in Nebraska. And we help mobilize those who have a heart towards the most vulnerable, like the widows and orphans, as we oftentimes refer in Christian circles as caring for the widows and orphans. And so that really gets to the heart of who we are as an organization. And so, part of that is we've, leaned into this new idea is, being a faith-based organization, especially in our culture today, looks very differently than I would say even looked 5 or 10 years ago. And at some level, we're seeing most institutions fail children. When you start looking at flourishing indicators on children alone, right? 3 out of 10 youth in the U.S. right now, 3 out of 10 youth are flourishing. That means that 7 are not. And so what I think, we look at, foster care as at-risk families. We can make an argument that there's every family that's feeling at risk right now or feeling vulnerable, around that. And so when we look at education, we look at the foster care system, at some level we are failing children. You look at the kids aging out of the system. Statistics are horrible when it comes to kids being better off after we've served them, within, child welfare. And so the heart of what we believe as Christian Heritage, and again, I think we've always have done this, is we want to mobilize God's people in a way that leads to actually flourishing outcomes from kids. And so again, that's obviously we still want to continue to do that on foster care, but it does change our narrative a little bit about wanting to change or reimagine what child welfare looks like, because we're not okay with the outcomes right now. So how do we begin to influence that in a way that we believe we can mobilize God's people around that?
Totally. And a part of that emphasis, that re-emphasis, even if you're not in Nebraska, or maybe you're somehow a friend of our ministry, but you don't live here, there's a huge push for an emphasis on prevention, right? We love foster care, and we love, we love equipping families to care for foster children, but we also want to be that, to be on the cutting edge of keeping kids out of foster care. And so we're trying to do both things, but that's a new emphasis for us, or I should say really a kind of a re-energized emphasis.
Yeah. Well, I go back to the flourishing. if we want children to flourish, that means the systems by which we serve kids need to flourish at some level. So, and we believe that God's people can make that possible. And how do we mobilize that? And we know that trauma, think about all the kids the families we serve, the kids we serve. We know that what counters trauma is connection, deep connection. And what better institution, if I could say the church as an institution, is able to make long-lasting impact with connection and trauma. Yep. And so the families we serve, as many of them are not churched. So how do we create the right wraparound or care communities around, families who are going through difficult times? One is, how can the church intervene in a way that before the state can? And we believe the church is extremely able and capable of doing that. Yeah. But again, it gets to like, how do we reverse trauma? How do we reverse the course? How can we change the future of child welfare? We believe it's by activating God's people. Yep. And getting them connected to your church in ways that leads to life, eternal transformation.
That's awesome. And so you guys who are listening, you're gonna be hearing more about this. We'll say this again at the end. We're planning on doing more of these kind of short live conversations, and Lord willing, hopefully a more full-length podcast in the future. But you're going to hear more about that. So all of that gives you just a 30,000 foot context for why our visual branding has changed. And so even if our intentions, our heart motives, and what we've actually done is identical for 40 plus years. It's a little shift in language. It's a little shift in terms of our priority, in terms of being explicit. We're equipping God's people. We're saying it very plainly. It all deserves a new look and a new visual identity that really matches our ministry. And so let's talk about that, because that's what we're here to talk about. So you can kind of see our logo there in the corner. And I would share my screen, but I won't right now. So we'll just keep it on us. So our new logo, Roy, talk about our new logo and what it communicates and the heart behind it, and really, what we were shooting for. And I'll say before I get there, huge shout out to Angela, our in-house designer. She's on our marketing team. She's fabulous. And she's been working with us. And we got so much feedback from other people inside and outside of CH to really get this to a point where we felt, good about it, almost as good as you could feel about a logo. So thank you to everybody who was involved, and a special shout out to Angela. So Roy, tell us about the new logo. And kind of the heart behind it.
Yeah. So, when you start pulling together and you do rebranding, you look at a lot of different logos, you look at a lot of different color palettes. I think, one of the things that I love about our new kind of color palette with really leveraging, yellows and oranges, if you look at color theory and you Googled what's the color of flourishing, orange would pop up. And there's lots of different reasons for that. It's full of energy, and that's why you kind of see the sunset there and what the sun represents in regards to, a sunrise or a sunset. It's filled with hope. It accentuates a future, that there is a tomorrow, which I think in Christian heritage world, we're always fighting for the tomorrows. People have a brighter understanding of their future, especially with the children we serve. And so the orange for us really represents this idea of flourishing, hope really, really well.
Yep. Yeah, I think too, it stands out. That's intentional. There's not a lot of human service agencies that kind of trend warmer in terms of color. And so we thought what we do is unique in that we equip the church. And then we're unique, especially in our emphasis on prevention through our program, Families Together. And so we wanted to stand out visually. So when you see that, it catches your eye. You're like, whoa, orange. That's different. And that was the point as well. Now tell us, Roy, about the house and the sunrise and what that signifies.
Well, again, Christian heritage, again, we've talked already about this. It has an incredible legacy. I think for the most part, everyone in circles knows and can identify, Christian heritage and the great work that we do for kids. And so there's elements of this that actually is kind of a longing for us to honor those who have gone before us. So if you look at some original logos that we've used in the past, actually here at Christian Heritage, is actually the sun. And so we love the element of like reimagining what the sun can look like. Greg loved using the eagle and the sun. I mean, that was a big part of who Greg was. And so that was just us saying, how can we continue to leverage that as an element?
Yeah.
And I think the sun embodies that. And like I said, the sun embodies for us, there's a tomorrow to fight for. There's a tomorrow that we can have and place hope for, one that is filled with future, with a positive, hope-filled future. The home, obviously, for us is, if you're not familiar with this, when Greg started this over 40 years ago, it was Christian Heritage Children's Home. And so home has always been a big part of who we are. Obviously, that was, at our different campuses. But for us, it's really the home that's represented in the communities. And so when I think of the incredible amount of foster homes that we have, or host homes that are actually serving kids outside of the foster care system, the home represents safety. It represents flourishing. It represents connection for the work that we're doing. And so we really felt that the combination of the house and the home, which, there's been so many people speaking into this. This just really resonated with the heart of the organization in just some really beautiful ways.
Totally. And I think too, the passage where Jesus says, I am the light of the world.
Yeah.
But then, of course, in the Sermon on the Mount, he tells us, you are the light of the world. And so that connection is emphasized with, it's God's people who are surrounding vulnerable children and families. And you kind of see that in the sun surrounding that home to provide it with everything it needs. And so, I love that. And I love that we get to be a part of an organization that, for those of you watching, chances are you're a part of it in some way too. You get to be a part of that, coming around people who need God's love, who need God's connection and his hope. And you get to be that instrument in people's lives for hope. So, So we'll do more of these in the future. We'll end it there. We just wanted to chat for probably 10 or 15 minutes with you. We'll do them on a regular basis, all different kinds of topics in terms of what God is doing in and through the ministry here at Christian Heritage. And maybe in the future, we'll even have some guests on. I think that would be awesome. So we'll shoot for the stars, but we want to be an organization that you see, that you know what's going on. And this is a really easy and fun way to communicate with you. What were you going to say, Roy?
Yeah, and I would just say we have a new website. So when you look at our website, if you look at some of that, obviously, we're going to be rolling out this rebranding in lots of different ways over the next few months. And so definitely be on the, keep your eyes and ears open to that. But like James said, we're super excited that we can start doing this like at this level where it's really about relationship building for us. And we're really excited about the work that God's been doing internally here at Christian Heritage as we look to, again, activate and mobilize God's people to care for vulnerable kids. So
great. Well, thanks for watching.
Thank you.
As always, I'll say, share, like, comment, spread the news. We'd love for more people to know about what God's doing through his people. So we appreciate it. Thanks for watching.